Welcome to Hope Springs Eternal, where we are having positive conversations about the United Methodist Church. Today we are talking with Reverend Mike Slaughter, who is the pastor emeritus for Ginsburg Church, a church he served for nearly 4 decades as the lead pastor. Mike is also the founder of Passionate Churches, LLC, which specializes in developing church leaders through coaching, training, and other services. He has written several books, including Christmas is Not Your Birthday, Dare to Dream, and Renegade Gospel. We hope this conversation blesses you as we continue to have positive conversations about the United Methodist Church. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for joining us. And I'm just so excited to be able to talk with you. Just had a few questions. One of the questions that I want to start with is what brought you to the United Methodist Church, and what was your call to ministry like?
Well, what brought me to Methodist Church, I was raised in it. My dad was Catholic and my mom was Baptist. And my dad said, I'm not going to become a Baptist. And my mom said, I'm not going to become a Catholic. And so the Methodist was kind of the nice in between, you know. So I was raised in the Methodist Church. And to me, it was kind of, I had some great mentors who were like Sunday school teachers and so forth. But the church as a whole, the pastors and so forth, it was like that first church of the frozen chosen kind of, it kind of bored me. And I was in a rock group and so forth. And in high school, the band I played with, two of the guys got caught with drugs. And so I had some troubling teen years. But before that, kind of a godmother in our church, when I was in 7th grade, took us to a Methodist seminary in Ohio, and then over to Riverside Hospital in Columbus, which is a Methodist hospital. And I remember I'm only in 7th grade, and she said, Mike, when you grow up, you either have to be a pastor or a doctor. Well, my grades kind of ruled out the doctor, but my son's a surgeon, so that works. But I forgot all about that. Like I said, I was a struggling student. I was in a band that was busted with drugs. And I had this, it was almost like a Paul on the Damascus Road. I was walking with my girlfriend, and it was like this hit me. I'm supposed to be a pastor. This is my senior year in high school. And I didn't even have a relationship with Jesus yet. And then I got in college caught up in the Jesus Revolution. My wife and I just went and saw that movie. Mm-hmm. The Jesus movement. Remember, this is 69, 70, my freshman year at University of Cincinnati. Outside the church, kind of the hippie, all of that. And really changed my life. And so I thought one of the best places to infiltrate was the institutional church, where there was this theism, but so much in the United Methodist Church, there was definitely a theism, but not as much of the personal dimension, the personal relationship with Jesus. And so that kind of connected, my call to where I was raised in the Methodist Church, because it didn't become United Methodist until the late 60s. But that's why I wanted to minister in the United Methodist Church. Yeah.
Okay. So, there's so much turmoil and transition going on with our church. What do you love about the Methodist Church, and why are you choosing to stay?
Well, I loved the expression always, the Big Tent, and so, I had mentors on both sides, who were conservative. Maxie, I went to Asbury Seminary. Maxie Dunham was a huge mentor in my life. But I also had some very progressive mentors, in my life. So, it was I always put it this way. Jesus is Lord, and everything else is a conversation. And so the United Methodist Church has been a very safe place for me to have questions. is I've grown. I'm 71 now. I was in the local church, a local church pastor for 45 years. And now I'm in my 51st year of active ministry. And so, as Wesley talked about growing forth in the perfection of love, perfect love, it's been that great place. And why I'm staying is that, to me, the United Methodist Church will continue to be the place where Jesus is Lord and everything else is a conversation. And I feel the other alternatives are more narrow, where they will no longer be the big tent where we can argue in love,
Mhm.
you know. And I think that's important because I've changed many positions through the years, by being and it's by being able to listen to people on all sides, and I really think that's important. Another reason is I love this dual emphasis of Wesleyan theology is you can't have personal holiness without social holiness, which is really social activism, social justice, and why we believe diversity is important, why the emphasis on the widow and the orphan, what drove me to work for over a decade in Darfur, Sudan, against genocide and so forth. I'm a little concerned with the breakaway. Will they lose some of that focus on social justice, on social holiness? Will become a little bit more focused on, the personal holiness part. I can't say that for sure, but it's what I love about the United Methodist emphasis. That social justice is very important.
So, with all the transition and things taking place, and the church is rapidly changing, what is your hope for the future for the United Methodist Church?
Well, one is, there is a great absence of the under 45-year-old in the church today. And after the COVID, many older folks have not returned. And I think that the hope is our theological focus, is there's room for questions. I'm learning more, even at my age I am now, of finding Jesus more in the questions. Look at how many times Jesus, people came with questions, but he responded with questions. What are you looking for? When John the Baptist disciples, do you really want to be well? Who do you say I am? That keeps changing or growing for me in my decades of following Jesus, and I think it's a safer space for people to ask questions and to discover forward in mystery and so forth going forward. My hesitation and fear is that we continue to hang on to our institutional structures. One of the things with Global Methodist and some of the churches who have gone independent and they're going forth in networks is they can start brand new with structures and so forth. And we've clung to these really 1940 structures. Everything with our trust clauses, and which really means we don't trust, and itinerancy and so forth. And I'm working with pastors today whose husbands are like superintendents of schools, or whose husbands are physicians, and they can't move. You know what I mean? And so we've got these institutional structures that are very old, brittle wineskins. And so if we don't blow up our structures, and rethink going forward, we've got this precious new wine. Our theology is just incredible. So that's my hope for pastors and the church going forward, is we say, hey, wait, we've got this great pause now to rethink about this discipline that's getting them to look like a phone book, And look at how outdated phone books are. We don't even use them anymore. Um, you know, and how do you talk about trying to run a movement with a committee of 900 and some people, general conference, you know, and our organizational structure is based on the American Constitution. No, this is so we're more institutional than organic, and it's time to like business is done, get rid of all middle management and so forth. Yeah.
So, I'm sure you've heard the discouragement, the words, people are discouraged, with the transition. Anytime, when there's no unsureness of the future, a lot of people get discouraged. What would be like your one word of encouragement for a clergy or a laity person who maybe who would talk to you and needed some encouragement during this time?
Well, God is still God, you know, and you have a call in your life. Follow your call. You know, way back in 1979, when I went to Gainsbourg Church, um, I followed my call. You know, I used to tease and say when people say, "Well, that's not in the discipline," and I used to say, "Well, I need to buy one." You know, I think follow your call, follow your call, and I think that's what's so important. Don't manage what's broke. You know, lead. And I think that's what hope is. And I'm so thankful looking back at my over 38 years at Gainsbourg and the incredible things that happened out of that ministry is that I followed my call, you know, and I didn't lead what was broken, you know. And to tell you the truth, in over 38 years, I never picked up the discipline. Yet bishops had me speak all across the denomination, you know, because I followed my call. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk today. This is great. And I hope that those who watch today are blessed by the conversation. Thanks again, Mike.
Oh, you're welcome.